As we do at the start of every 10 o'clock hour here on our show here on Sunday, Sunday in the Country, we bring in Willie Hallihan from his website, sportingacause.com, where he lists events that are coming up that are sporting related, but are also events that are sporting events. But before we start, Willie, this has been a long time coming. First, the Housatonic girls basketball team wins the regular season Berkshire League championship. Then they win the actual championship round after that, and they defeated, of course, who?
Northwestern.
And they defeated Northwestern 3 times this year. Guess what? Northwestern only has 3 losses all year, though. So congratulations to the Hoosie Lady Mountaineers.
Absolutely, and that's really my leadoff story. You and I are both alumni of Hoosie, and how proud are we of our school? Anytime a Hoosie team does well in the Berkshire League or wherever, it's always a David versus Goliath story, because Hoosie is probably it's a Class S school, small school, but probably one of the smallest schools in the small school category. And when they beat the Goliaths, I mean they beat Northwestern, which is a Class M school, over 700 students. They beat Lewis Mills, which is approaching 800 students. And I understand that school size isn't everything in determining a school, but let's face it, when it comes to state tournament time, that's how they classify them. They group them by school size. And Hoosie, the girls beat them all. I saw a couple of games, regular season games, and they just dominate. I mean, they remind me of the UConn women, and because their defense is just smothering. And there's a Monday night at Hoosie is their first state game. They play Ellis Tech. I don't know where they're from. But I think the game is at 7. I was scrambling before you called to find game time, but I think it's 7 Monday night at Hoosie, the first state tournament game. And I'm definitely going to be there because, as I said, we're all proud of our girls.
And now let's move on to the Hoosie hockey team. They won their championship. And we should mention that the Housatonic Hockey team is a collection of a lot of different schools, as a matter of fact. But they still wear that big H on their chest, and we congratulate them. It's very rare that in the winter season, and the past 10 years, that we have a couple of clubs that win their championships. So.
I know, and I've mentioned this before, but I liken. No, let's face it, hockey is a different kind of sport than all the traditional team sports. It's an expensive sport to play. The talent pool is small compared to basketball or baseball or some of the other sports. So I understand why lately they've had to join forces with other schools. But I think hockey is kind of the poster children, if you will, for the changing dynamics in school. Like, as you said, Hoosie is comprised of, or Hoosie hockey is comprised of 4 teams: Mogo, Northwestern, Torrington, although I don't think they brought any players on this year, and Hoosie. And they played one team, at least one team that, like them, took 4 schools to field the team. So here you're playing a hockey game that took 8 schools to field. And I kind of bemoan the fact that that's the way things are heading. More and more we're seeing declining student populations, and there may be other dynamics at work, but more and more we're seeing group teams comprised of 2, 3, or 4 other schools.
Well, congratulations once again to the Hoosie hockey team. Students from Housatonic, Wamogo, Northwestern, and Torrington, and the Hoosie Ladies Mountaineers basketball team comprised of Hoosie students winning their championships.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
All right, on to events, Willie.
Okay. And by the way, talking about the Hoosie girls basketball is not a departure from my mission, because, of course, I promote sports-related fundraisers. And a lot of high school sports now, basketball being one of them, charge a small fee to get in and watch, and it helps defray the costs of putting on the school program. So these games are still sports-related fundraisers, just like running events and golf tournaments, at least in terms of my mission. Anyway, today there are a couple things going on that your listeners still have time to take in if they're looking. The last day of the Women's Winter Wonderland Bonspiel up in Norfolk. I've spoken often about curling this winter because there's been a lot of activity, more than usual this year. And today is the final day of 4 days of Bonspiel of curling activity at the Norfolk Curling Club. And this is also part of the winter weekend in Norfolk. There's the Norfolk has gotten together. I think these are great programs. They do a summer in Norfolk and also a winter in Norfolk where they have all kinds of activities, and the curling is just one of those. Many things going on. So if you are looking for something to do today, and there's plenty of time to do it, head to Norfolk. There's all kinds of exhibits and so forth. The crappy weather shouldn't hinder many of those events. A lot of them are inside, including the curling. So this will be probably the last opportunity to witness curling this year, and I encourage you to do so, as I've said many times. Also today, and you can also reach this if you are just hearing about it for the first time at the Lake Warramog 35th Annual Polar Bear Run. It's a run around Lake Warramog. It's a 7.6-mile run. It's longer than most. I think most of the running events that I cover, 5 to 10K, so this is a little bit longer than that. But it starts and ends at the Lake Warramog Country Club in New Preston. And it's got a great beneficiary. It benefits the Guiding Eyes for the Blind, which is a nonprofit that trains and distributes seeing eye dogs to visually impaired. It's a great charity. And then on to the next weekend, Saturday, March 2nd, there's the Winsted Penguin Plunge. This kind of starts the plunge season. Like many polar plunges, by the way, the phrase polar plunge or polar bear plunge are both trademarked phrases by the Special Olympics. So if you ever see polar plunge and you think it's a generic term, it is not. Special Olympics has trademarked it. They always promote their events using that word, and they're very protective of it. And the Winsted Penguin Plunge is a polar plunge benefiting the Special Olympics. I'm sure I just confused the heck out of everybody there. And it's also one of the biggest. It's the biggest plunge in Connecticut in terms of fundraising. This relatively little isolated event in Winsted raises like $100,000 a year for Special Olympics in Connecticut. Each state takes care of its own programs in the Special Olympics world, and Winsted, the polar plunge in Winsted is a very integral part of that. And on the same day, ironically, there is a swim-a-thon up in Great Barrington. Different water temperatures for these two events, and in Winsted you're jumping into outdoor frigid water, and at the Berkshire South Regional Community Center in Great Barrington, you're swimming indoors. It's a swim-a-thon where you do laps, and you fundraise. If you're a participant, you fundraise and bring your pledges to the event. And although the event is all day, from like 9 to 4 at the Regional Community Center in Great Barrington, you have a 2-hour window to swim as many laps as you want to, and hopefully you have garnered pledges from people to give you so much per lap. And then down the road, like the week after that, the ham shoots start. These are shooting events, target shooting events at the Northwest Connecticut Rod and Gun Club in Canaan. And the hams are not the target; they're the prize if you win. These are shotgun events, and you're shooting at a target the size of a 50-cent piece, like 100 feet away, and the closest pellet to the crosshairs wins that round, and you win hams. This is the Easter version of the turkey shoots, which happen in the fall, where you win turkeys before Thanksgiving. And they're very popular. There are 6 of them. They'll be on 6 consecutive Sundays starting week after next. And also down the road, there's a Hoops for Hope, which is a basketball tournament over at Marist College for breast cancer. And also the Retro Dodgeball tournament at Litchfield High School, which is in its third year, it was immediately hugely popular. Oftentimes, it takes a few years for an event once you start it to get some traction. But 3 years ago, they started it. It's the Litchfield Education Foundation. It's a sort of like SOAR is in Salisbury. It's an after-school enrichment program. And they're just looking for something different to do. Litchfield is a huge running town. There are walkathons, runs all the time, all year round. They were looking for something different, so they started a retro dodgeball tournament where people are encouraged to wear costumes from the 70s, and they get 20-some teams, and they charge like $200 a team. They make a lot of money, and it's very popular. It's free to watch. So that's coming up. I'll be talking about that in probably next weekend. So although it's still a kind of a slow time of year sports-wise, there are things going on, and a variety of things. In the summertime, golf tournaments and running races seem to dominate my calendars, but this time of year, although there are fewer events, there's more diversity in the kinds of events, and it makes life interesting.
You know, dodgeball, think about it, we used to have that in schools.
Oh, that's right.
But, of course, they stopped that in schools because they claimed it could be a targeting exercise. And it was a targeting exercise. I remember because I was slow, and I got hit with that dodgeball more than anybody.
Back then, it was our version of the law of natural selection, right?
Really. But I'll tell you, once I got a hold of the ball, I was vicious.
A lot of that pent-up anger coming out, right?
That's it, because it might have taken me 2 weeks to get a hold of the ball. Nobody else in the classes had to worry about getting there with a dodgeball as long as they were in there with me. So that's fun. Yeah, dodgeball is a fun game, and I think that you're right. You just listed a whole bunch of events though that are going on really at what's so-called the slowest time of the year, and there is no real slow time of the year with fundraising events, especially for sports around here.
That's for sure. Also, I think I'm starting to see a trend. Cornhole tournaments are starting to crop up more and more. As a sport, there are several around. I know the Canaan Country Club has an indoor league, and there are others around. And I'm sure it's a simple tournament to set up because the barriers are few. You have the boards, in the bags, and you put up a sign saying "Let's have one," and that's all it takes. So I expect to be seeing more and more of those, and throughout the year. Wintertime you play them inside, summertime you play outside, and I'm expecting to see more of those.
All right, Willie, we'll check with you next week.
Okay, Marshall. As always, thank you for having me on.